Do you believe in the New World Order? Do you believe that a group of people are calling the shots from behind the scenes? Or how about the United Nations? Do you believe that the UN is attempting to usurp some of our American sovereignty in order to implement their globalist laws and rules and regulations? Never mind the fact that that's what the UN has actually done. Case in point, the Paris Climate Accords, the Migrant Compact, the disarmament and recruitment soldiers that they have online, not to mention Agenda 21, which all call for the reorganization of not only our immigration system, but many of our laws here in the US. Never mind that there's actual truth behind the United Nations and the New World Order. Do you believe that that's actually happening? Or what about the deep state? Do you believe that the deep state is against the president of the United States of America, trying to get him impeached, trying to get him out of office, and trying to frame him for fake Russia collusion, and today, even trying to link him above and beyond the Clintons with Jeffrey Epstein? Do you believe that? Or how about false flags? Do you believe that the government does things behind the scenes in order to ignite wars, for example, like Operation Northwoods, an admitted false flag by our US government? If you believe that they still happen today, then you have just been labeled likely of domestic terrorism by the FBI. Let me just take you to the report so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, the report was published May 30th of this year, 2019, so it's just a couple of months old. But it's titled by the FBI, Anti-Government, Identity-Based, and Fringe Political Conspiracy Theories Very Likely Motivate Some Domestic Extremists to Commit Criminal and Sometimes Violent Acts. So based off the title alone, they're saying if you talk about conspiracy theories, which is some of the stuff that I mentioned in the video just a moment ago, if you agree to some of that, if you talk about some of that, then you are encouraging others to do violence. Do you see how twisted of a world we're living in, where we can't even talk about actual facts because they're dubbing them conspiracy theories when many of them are not? And now, if you talk about them, it's considered motivating others to violence. Really? But let's get into the report. Now, who did they share this with for starters? It said the information was marked in this document as the property of the FBI and can be distributed with the federal government and its contractors. So it's going to the FBI, contractors, U.S. intelligence, law enforcement, public safety or protection officers, and individuals with the need to know. Basically, government and its branches and even some of its contractors and public safety officials all get this report. Moving on a little bit, what's inside of it? One key assumption driving these assessments is that certain conspiracy theorist narratives tactically support or legitimize violent action. The FBI also assumes some, but not all individuals or domestic extremists who hold such beliefs will act on them. No kidding. I would say 99% don't act on it, right? The FBI assesses these conspiracy theorists very likely will emerge, spread, and evolve in the modern information marketplace, occasionally driving both groups and individuals, extremists, to carry out criminal or violent acts. And then it goes on to give a couple lists of examples of how this have happened in the past. Some of the examples include Pizzagate, talking about Pizzagate, talking about the New World Order, talking about Zionist occupation of the government, talking about QAnon, talking about the UN invading America. These are all examples that are given in the report as to possible conspiracy theories. Now, they go on to expand on that in just a moment, but others are Sandy Hook and Comet Ping Pong Pizza. This is the list that has been given to us of examples of people who are psychotic and take things to extremes and go do psychotic, violent acts. You see, a majority of people have a right to believe in conspiracy theories, have a right to study them, have a right to know about them, and people have a right to talk about them. That's just the fact that we live in. We don't go and attack them politically and say, you're not even allowed to talk about them because it may or might incur people to act on violence. That's like saying you can't write that music video that talks about guns or shooting or anything because it might incite some people to violence. Or that's like saying you can't believe and have a strong love of the earth. You know, you have your environmentalists who want to protect the earth. You can't have that. You can't talk about environmental stuff because some psycho might go commit a psychotic act. This is what they're doing here. They're taking everything, our basic freedom of speech, twisting it and saying somebody can commit a violent act. Yeah, they can commit a violent act in the name of pretty much any and everything. That's just the truth. What about religions? People can go in the name of religion and commit an extremist radical act. We have Muslims and then we have radical Islamic extremism. There's a difference. One is doing crazy, bad, and horrible things. We have Christianity and then we have Christian identity, radical groups that are doing idiotic things, hurting and killing people. It's pretty much like that in multiple religions, you see? But we don't go and say, you're not allowed to talk about God, you're not allowed to talk about Christ, you're not allowed to talk about Muhammad, you're not allowed to talk about Buddha or whatever, or Confucius. But this is what they're attempting to do here. You're not allowed to talk about conspiracy theories. And what is a conspiracy theory? You see, there's so many definitions. There's so many. It could be anything. Jesus Christ could be a conspiracy theory. They can add anything they want. You see, they added false flags in here, yet we have admitted documents by our government admitting of that very thing. We have evidence that the United Nations is attempting to push their rules and regulations on our country, yet that we can't talk about. We have proof and evidence of a new world order by Bush, former President Bush, and multiple other presidents talking about a new world order, members of Congress. But it's labeled a conspiracy theory. What's the agenda and what's the real motive here? And that's my concern. It's not that they're saying people can be motivated. Look, let me be honest. People can be motivated to violence by anything and anything. They could take and make an issue out of whatever. That's called psychotic people doing psychotic things, right? But here they are. I believe this is a step, an attack on our straight up freedom. But it goes on and it expands a little more. The FBI, in some cases, anti-government, identity-based, and fringe political conspiracy theories very likely encourage the targeting of specific people, places, and organizations, thereby increasing the risk of extreme violence against such targets. This targeting occurs, says, when promoters of conspiracy theories claiming to act as researchers or investigators, you mean alternative media, journalists, single out people, businesses, or groups which they falsely accuse of being involved in the imagined scheme. So, in other words, if there's reporters, journalists, investigators, say you talk about, I don't know, the Clinton body count. Nobody is going to deny there's a lot of dead bodies that surround that family, but you can't talk about it. Or you can't talk about other things because, hey, somebody crazy and idiotic might do something stupid. I mean, really? That can happen under any circumstances. It goes on page 4, and I'm going to read this section. Although conspiracy theory-driven crime and violence is not a new phenomenon, right? It's been around forever. Why suddenly print the document today? Why attack only that? Why not get the movie industry, the music industry, and all of it? Again, I'm just over talking. Today's information environment has changed the way conspiracy theorists develop, spread, and evolve. The advent of the internet and social media has enabled promoters of conspiracy theories to produce and share great volumes of material via online platforms that large audience of consumers can quickly and easily access. In other words, the true people they're after are the journalists, the writers, the reporters, the ones that are talking about it, even though none of them are encouraging violent acts. In fact, any legit reporter condemns it, and I condemn that. Based on the increased volume and reach of conspiratorial content due to modern communication methods, it is logical to assume that more extremist-minded individuals will be exposed to potentially harmful conspiracy theories, except ones that are favorable to their views, and possibly carry out criminal or violent actions as a result. The internet has also enabled a crowdsourcing effect wherein conspiracy theories followers themselves shape a theory by presenting information that supplements, expands, or localizes its narrative. It goes on. The FBI considered the alternative hypothesis that domestic extremism likely turned to violence only after it's a result of an underlying extreme ideology, such as militia extremism or white, racially motivated violent extremism. Whereas conspiracy beliefs held by such extremists do not play a role in their mobilization to violence, they said. The FBI deemed this alternative to be less likely Because these conspiracy beliefs had motivated, at least in part, several high-profile violent acts or have influenced the perpetrators to the extent that they are attributed to the actions of their conspiratorial beliefs before or after their arrest. In addition, academic research indicates conspiracy beliefs are not only prevalent and influential in domestic extremist circles and among those with extreme political views, but often serve to magnify and exuberate existing extremist sentiments. Well, what actually constitutes this based off this report, right? They gave us examples, but what constitutes it? Well, that's what we're going to look at in the Outlook section. It says the subsequent threat from conspiracy-minded extremists is the uncovering of real conspiracies or cover-ups involving illegal, harmful, or unconstitutional activity by government officials or leading political figures. Indicating that these scenarios are emerging include disruptive plots or successful attacks against popular conspiracy theorist targets such as government facilities, synagogues, mosques, or partisan political figures. Now, what are they trying to say there? Well, see, here's the way we're heading in our culture. You're not allowed to criticize Congress. You're not allowed to criticize political figures, Hollywood people, people on media. You're not allowed to criticize the president. This is the way we're heading. This is kind of what this is saying. Basically, if you do, then you're inciting people to violence. You're inciting people to be violent. If you don't like a policy or an agenda or a law that your governing authorities that you voted in are pushing through, you're basically not allowed to voice your opinion. I mean, really? That's called communism. That's called tyranny. That's called being a dictator, telling people that they can't speak and say things. I mean, we are really, really pushing a thin line with our freedoms here. Since when did it become a crime to be against something politically? And maybe one could say that's not the line they're drawing. Maybe not here, but it's coming. This is the pre-write-up for that. They've already called for it. Members of Congress have already called for it. But pretty much anything that could get someone in trouble. Look, everything can get anyone in trouble in any way, shape, or form. We live in a very ugly world. There's good people and there's bad people. There's good people and there's people that screw things up. But we don't go changing all our laws because of a few idiots. And you guys know that. And that's why I love all of you guys. But it goes on to define what a conspiracy theorist is. It says, it is an attempt to explain events or circumstances as the result of a group actor working in secret to benefit themselves at the expense of others. Conspiracy theorists typically allege wrongdoing by powerful others, political officials, business, scientists, or marginalized group Muslims and Jews, and are most prevalent among individuals with extreme political views. Some conspiracy theories point to weak circumstantial evidence but ignore stronger evidence that would refute their claims. Consequently, they are usually at odds with officials or prevailing explanations of events. So there you go. So basically, if you have a strong political view, which you have to have a strong political view if you're going to be involved in politics. That's who our politicians are. That's who our congressmen. They have hearts, a heart to get the job done. Some of them just want the money, and others want to flip our country inside out. But they're trying to say that basically conspiracy believes in a wrongdoing of a public person or thing, like the United Nations, like the New World Order. And it expands on that a little more in the second paragraph. I'll let you read that, but I want to give you some examples of what they're calling anti-government. As you can see, they have the heading anti-government, and underneath that, they have New World Order, United Nations, and false flags. I've got a question. How is being against the New World Order and the United Nations anti-government? I want government. We need government. We don't need a lot and a massive big government. No, I would personally like more states' rights than federal. That's how it was set up. But being against the New World Order doesn't mean you're anti-government. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You see, the New World Order wants to supersede and overtake and rule things from behind the scenes through the United Nations arm. They're linked, right? And through multiple other organizations. The UN, by the way, just merged with the World Economic Forum, big corporation in bed, and now merged with UN, the political arm. And you can't tell me that they want to usurp and take some of our freedom here in America. That's their whole agenda. That's not anti-America. That's being against someone wanting to remove the sovereignties of the people you elected into office. I elected Trump. We elected our congressmen and senators. Those are the ones that should be involved in our country, not the UN. So why is this even under anti-government? You see the real thing here. And then false flags, Zionist-occupied government, Islamobergs, and then on the last page it talks about Pizzagate and QAnon. These are the examples that they list as conspiracy theory. And anyhow, I love you guys. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And please don't forget to check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. Right now, I want to encourage you to get a Roth solid gold IRA. Today is the day to have something like that. They're good in today's environment because you never know where the dollar is going to go. So if you've not converted, please, I highly encourage you to do that and check it out in the description box below or call the number, which is also in the description box below. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.